In this lesson, we will discuss how reviewing the origin of a source can assist in determining its credibility. In particular, the essential guiding questions for this lesson are: why is it important to determine the source's origin when evaluating source credibility? What questions should be considered when reviewing the origin of digital and print sources? And how does the type of source, primary or secondary, impact its credibility? When evaluating source credibility, origin is a great place to start since it tells us where the source comes from. There's a lot we can learn about the credibility of a source based on who published it and what type of source it is. Let's start with answering some basic questions about the source origin, whether it's digital or print. For digital sources found online, an easy way to determine the origin is to review the domain. A domain is the last three letters of the URL after the organization's name. For example, you may be familiar with .com or .net. The domain reveals the type of organization which published the source, and some domains may be more credible than others. Let's take a look at this quick reference list. A website ending in .com was originally intended to represent commercial websites, such as for-profit businesses, which still remains true. However, in more recent years, .com has become popular amongst a variety of websites. .edu refers to educational organizations, in particular universities. .gov is a government website with information from U.S. government agencies. .org represents nonprofit organizations. .mil is another type of government website with information presented by branches of the U.S. military. .net stands for network, commonly representing internet service providers, but can also be used for a variety of reasons. .ac represents academia, with information from academic institutions in different countries. .k12 mostly shows information from a K-12 school, whether it's a school district website or a teacher website. So for digital sources, a good starting point is to review the domain and consider the goals or motives of an organization and how that impacts their credibility. In addition to digital, it's important to have strategies for evaluating print sources, like an article, a book, or even passages from a newspaper or magazine. While reviewing a print source, a nice place to start is to ask who is the publisher. To identify the publisher, try to reveal the following. Look for the copyright and publisher information in the first few pages of the text. Do you recognize a publisher from a popular publishing house? Is a text published from a university? If it's still challenging to judge the credibility of the publisher, search for other books published by the same publisher. Do the other published texts seem credible? Are there any on similar topics? For the most part, count on print sources from universities to be credible sources. Last, while reviewing the source origin, determine if the source is primary or secondary. Primary sources typically contain factual information, as they are first-hand accounts of an event. Some examples of primary sources include newspaper articles or journals from that time period, photographs, maps, songs, archived materials, or research results. Secondary sources are second-hand accounts by someone who wasn't directly involved in an event. Examples may include newspaper or magazine articles after an event has occurred, biographies, reference texts such as dictionaries or encyclopedias, history books, or most anything containing a review of an event or events. Secondary sources most often interpret a primary source. Although primary sources are most commonly preferred, both primary and secondary sources are useful for different cases. As always, review assignment directions to understand if there's anything pertaining to source type, whether it's digital, print, primary, or secondary. Keep this information in mind while moving forward with different categories for evaluating source credibility, such as purpose, perspective, and relevance. Origin and source type are just the beginning to evaluating sources.
Yes!